Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Expert Insights webinars. I am your host for today, Don McLean, and today's session is focused on authoring efficiencies in cross-functional strategies, clinical study reports, and beyond, presented by MMS. MMS is an innovative, data-focused, and technology-enabled CRO, bringing insights from our global team of highly respected data and regulatory experts across 4 continents. Here to present today is Dr. Jessica Murdoch and Dr. Michelle Reed. Jessica is a senior medical writer with a strong background in biomedical research with 15 plus years of experience communicating science to diverse audiences. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Microbiology from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Dr. Michelle Reed is a medical writer at MMS based in Canton, Michigan. Prior to MMS, she was a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, where she earned a Doctor of Philosophy in Immunology. Thanks to our presenters for joining us today. As a reminder, your microphones will be muted for the duration of this session, and we'll send out a recording following this call. And if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A at any time via the icon at the top right of your screen. We'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can at the conclusion of today's session. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Jessica Murdoch. Jessica.
Thanks for the introduction, Don. Clinical study reports are a key component of drug development programs as they feed into marketing applications and often drive timelines for these submissions. As CSRs contain many moving pieces and require extensive collaborations, there are opportunities for efficiencies in preparing CSRs. Identifying efficiencies is even more important as delays in CSR preparation can impact overall program timelines. Leveraging technology, writing efficiencies, and cross-functional strategies to produce high-quality CSRs that are FDA, EMA submission, and clinical trial disclosure ready ensure quality and decrease cycle times within a drug development program. One of the greatest efficiencies is to have the medical writer drive CSR preparation and document management. Medical writers represent a unique role in a clinical study team as they interact with many different functional lines and can drive several activities associated with CSR development, such as team review, appendices collection, and lean authoring. Today, I would like to discuss some of these efficiencies from a medical writing perspective to streamline CSR development and how preparing CSRs with downstream activities in mind can ultimately reduce time and effort that are needed for regulatory submissions. Today, we're going to discuss some advancements in medical writing technology, how to leverage these technologies and medical writing best practices during preparation of the CSR, and then finally, we'd like to discuss some cross-functional strategies that can be utilized to ensure quality and increase efficiency in CSR authorship. Employing these strategies early and throughout CSR authorship can also help prepare for downstream disclosure activities. The goal of many of the technologies we'll be discussing today are aimed at reducing repetitive and time-consuming tasks in CSR document management and preparation. Some of these technologies are more established, so we'll focus the discussion on key considerations of using these technologies. Other technologies are very new, so we'll be discussing the permutations and future applications of these emerging technologies. In terms of specific technologies, we'll be discussing key points of immutable tables, citation management, collaborative review, and e-signatures. For emerging technologies, we'll be discussing automated document formatting, technology-enabled templates, and data sciences. In the first part of the presentation, we'll be giving an overview of these technologies, and in the second part of the presentation, we'll be discussing some specific ways to use these technologies to increase efficiency of CSR preparation. Immutable tables are a relatively recent trend adopted by the pharmaceutical industry that can save time for both the medical writer and the QC reviewer. There's no standard way to create an immutable table, and different companies have come up with different processes and different functionalities for their immutable tables. These tables are typically created specifically to be presented in the body of a CSR report. They're programmatically derived and usually arrive pre-formatted. No manual modification or calculations either can or should be made to these tables. Overall, immutable tables increase quality and also reduce medical writing time. There's a range of functionalities associated with immutable tables linked to how they are created. In terms of the process when the table is updated, there are a couple of options. The tables can either be automatically re-updated, or the medical writer would need to reinsert that updated table. In terms of QCing the table, tables may either be locked against editing, or it may be understood that no edits to the table should be made. If the tables are locked, this can reduce time required for the QC reviewer to check the tables. Citation management applications can really save medical writing time. They also increase overall document quality by reducing the potential for error in CSRs. Technology to manage references is more efficient than manual management, particularly in documents with a large number of citations. Key consideration for using this technology is that if a program or project-specific library is already in use, this can save time so this library doesn't need to be recreated for a specific document. Collaborative team review is an industry trend that can streamline the overall document writing process by using technology platforms to reduce time expenditure in reviewing documents and resolving comments. Collaborative team review can be utilized on several platforms such as Microsoft Office and Please Review. The overall goal is for the team to discuss directly with other team members when internal resolution is needed. Some applications allow for concurrent review of a document by multiple people. Some of these benefits of using collaborative team review include real-time resolution of issues. The use of the @mentions feature allows for notification to other reviewers when you leave a comment for them. Another advantage of collaborative team review is rapid escalation within the team for critical issues. For example, if a team member has an urgent question about a specific analysis and wonders if additional ad hoc analysis should be prepared, using collaborative team review, this issue can be escalated quickly to the entire team and resolved by the team and medical writer in advance of a comment review meeting. If ad hoc analysis is needed, this often delays the timeline at a minimum of several days. So early escalation and team decision of whether or not ad hoc analysis is needed can minimize potential delays to the timeline. Overall, the important key for collaborative team review is that direct internal team discussion leads to reduced medical writing time for collation and adjudication of comments and streamlines the overall review process. Electronic signatures can be a valuable and quick way to save a few days during CSR finalization. Sometimes one day can mean the difference in months in a timeline. E-signatures can be used to enable fast document turnaround and finalization. E-signatures should be trustworthy, reliable, and generally equivalent to paper records and handwritten signatures that are executed on paper. DocuSign has partnered with industry experts to deliver signatures which meet the United States FDA regulations. So there are a few regulations that are applicable for DocuSign. These are listed on the slide. Automated document formatting, for example, Automatic, has several key features that can improve the overall process of CSR writing and reduce time spent by medical writers and QC reviewers. Automatic is an application which utilizes robotic process automation, a form of artificial intelligence, to perform style and formatting updates on Word-based documents as programmed by the tool, eliminating the need for manual formatting updates. This tool is fully validated and customizable through the user interface, which enables the user to program the tool to meet specific client style guide requirements. Automatic frees up writers to focus on the key messaging, stakeholder alignment, and other elements that are most critical to the medical and regulatory writing process. This program can be run at each draft and allows the team to focus on content during their review instead of document formatting. Technology-enabled templates and structured content management systems can increase the overall efficiency of developing clinical trial documents, such as a protocol, statistical analysis plan, and clinical study report. An example of technology-enabled templates are Transcelerate's e-templates. This forms the clinical template suite of protocol, SAP, and CSR. The Transcelerate Common Protocol template was initially released as a basic Word edition and provided a common template background, structure, and organization, and allowed for standard format and content, including regulatory aligned text of a clinical study document across sponsor. This basic Word edition of the CPT rapidly evolved into a technology-enabled edition that included therapeutic area-specific libraries. Transcelerate then created a clinical template suite by building in automated CPT content reusability into the common SAP and common CSR templates and expanding their therapeutic area-specific libraries. The CTS is now part of a broader initiative, clinical content and reuse, and allows for many advantages such as consistency across sponsors and alignment with FDA guidance. The CTS works towards having electronic, machine-readable documents and improving overall end-to-end efficiencies. The CTS includes basic Word and electronic templates for the protocol, the SAP, and the clinical study report. The CTS templates can be used individually or together to simplify and streamline content and achieve content reuse. Another mechanism for content reuse involves structured content management systems. These systems provide consistent content that's regulatory aligned text and approved study-specific text across documents for a given study, therapeutic area, or drug development program. SCMs retrieve information from either content libraries or upstream clinical study documents, for example, pulling information from the protocol into either the SAP or the CSR. Both technology-enabled templates and structured content management systems both utilize the concept of automated content reuse, which is the reuse of study information in clinical trial documents. There are similar types of information that are reused throughout clinical documents. Some of this information is reused as is, for example, the protocol title. Some of this information is reused but is edited specific to its use. For example, the study design might be condensed in the SAP but expanded on in the CSR. In contrast, the sample size in the statistical analysis plan may require a more lengthy discussion in the SAP than compared to the protocol. Text from automated content reuse is then edited to make fit-for-purpose documents. And while we're primarily discussing automated content reuse in the context of protocol SAPs and CSRs, you can imagine this concept can be used in broader applications across many documents for a clinical trial, for example, PK reports and Module 2 documents. There are some overlapping key advantages to both technology-enabled templates and structured content management systems, such as improving document quality and reduction of time spent copying and editing text from upstream source documents. However, it is worth mentioning that these technologies are not intended to replace medical writers, but to reduce the amount of time spent on repetitive tasks so documents can be produced more quickly. Data science is an exciting new field in the pharmaceutical industry where real-world data can be cleaned, standardized, anonymized, and analyzed. This emerging field can have many novel applications in a clinical program development. MMS has recently developed Datacise, which is a data sciences platform that contains applications for data curation, analysis, and visualization. Datacise can pull information from a variety of sources, both public and private, including social media, to transform real-world data into real-world evidence. Real-world evidence can be used in many different applications, such as trial optimization, post-marketing safety, and secondary indications. For traditional study design, the potential application of data science include interventional studies, epidemiology studies, non-interventional studies, and safety monitoring. Datacise includes a customizable dashboard that enables rapid visualization of clinical database information. In the context of CSR authorship, this tool could be used for safety data investigations or post hoc analyses of a study database. It can also be used to quickly identify safety signals, co-occurring events, and other points of interest without having to manually compare data listings. On the screen is an example of a dashboard displaying hemoglobin lab values. You can quickly view all subjects' hemoglobin values at each study visit in a visualization. You can then easily drill down on any specific values of interest. For example, there's a low hemoglobin value in this dashboard. And then you can look at how the specific subject's hemoglobin values change throughout the study. You can then also compare these values to the subject adverse events. For example, an AE of anemia is associated with the low hemoglobin value. You can also look at any other AEs that may have been reported concurrently with the abnormal hemoglobin value. And now I'd like to hand the presentation over to Ms. Cheryl Reed to discuss CSR preparation efficiencies.
Thank you, Jessica. So now that we have discussed the available and upcoming technologies that are available for preparing CSRs, we will discuss ways in which a medical writer can leverage technology alongside more traditional methods to maintain quality and reduce time expenditures when preparing a CSR. So clinical study reports contain a large number of components that need to be brought together in order to create an effective report. In order to accurately represent the study design, for example, the study protocol, statistical analysis plan, and other study documents need to be referenced and adequately summarized in the report. Then, in order to present the results of the study, informative tables, listings, and figures need to be generated, presented, and analyzed in the report. External reports, such as pharmacokinetic reports, may be needed to be referenced as well. And finally, safety information must be presented and reported in the form of safety narratives if applicable. So the strategic use of time-saving technology, as well as lower tech methods, can help reduce the preparation time for CSRs while contributing to overall quality. So an overview of leveraging medical writing efficiencies, some of the tools and strategies that can be leveraged to increase efficiency in preparing high quality CSRs includes the use of standard CSR templates that are designed to be adaptable to the needs of a study. The tech-enabled templates can also be used to reduce the time required to transfer information from study documents. The strategy of lean authoring can be used to focus on key messaging, while directed team review can reduce the amount of time spent resolving comments. And finally, there are some special considerations for reporting on studies that have multiple co-development partners or sponsors, as well as for situations in which multiple authors need to work on the document at the same time. So a well-designed CSR template document contributes to the overall quality of the report, as well as increasing writing efficiency. This is done by providing standard text within the document, such as a GCP compliance statement, with suggested optional text and clear instructional text for each section of the document as applicable. And these templates should be designed to be as flexible as possible to accommodate the needs of individual studies. Some examples of how template flexibility can be built in. There are many considerations when building and maintaining these templates. Ideally, this template should contain guidance within the template on what sections are required for an abbreviated or synoptic report in the event that an abbreviated CSR is sufficient for the regulatory submissions needs of the study. In addition, different types of studies may use different terminology for similar concepts. So annotations on terminology by therapeutic area can be very useful. It can also be helpful to build in contingencies for reporting on studies that have been affected by local or global disruptions. This information can provide a framework and recommendations for the writer on reporting on study results, mitigations, and the validity of analyses in the case of a disrupted study. And finally, templates should contain up-to-date health agency policies, guidelines, and recommendations. This ensures that CSRs are written in compliance with the most recent health agency requirements. So we discussed tech-enabled templates a moment ago. The use of tech-enabled templates may help reduce transcription errors and speed up the process of transferring study information from source documents into a CSR. However, there are some key considerations for the use of e-templates that need to be kept in mind. The first is that e-templates can be structured differently than templates that are designed according to ICH guidelines. So for example, subsections can be grouped or split to accommodate the programming requirements of these documents. And because of that, this may not be appropriate for use with a study where the CSR needs to be structured in a specific way that is substantially different from the e-template structure. Similarly, auto-populated text from source study documents may not conform to report requirements. So for example, text imported from the protocol may be too general or too specific for the report needs, or may not conform to lean writing requirements. So in cases where substantial editing of the imported text is required, it may be faster to selectively cut and paste from the source documents than to bulk import that information instead. And finally, CSR e-templates require study documents to be structured in a specific way to enable the automated transfer of text between documents. So it may not be possible to use the automated functions of a CSR e-template if the study document, such as the protocol or SAP, are not structured appropriately. Another method that can be used to prepare documents more efficiently is through the use of lean authoring. This is an industry-wide initiative to create more structured, fit-for-purpose CSRs that minimize unnecessary repetition of information. So for example, a document written according to lean writing principles would minimize repetition of data in the text that can be easily found within an in-text table. The text is then used to highlight the key results or important data and directly relate study objectives to endpoints and conclusions. In addition, by reducing repetition of information, lean writing can help a document comply with public disclosure requirements. A reduction of potentially sensitive patient information in the CSR text will reduce the amount of time that ultimately needs to be spent on redaction prior to public disclosure. So the key consideration for lean authoring is to ensure that the needs of the report are balanced with the need to minimize unnecessary repetition of information. So we also touched on electronic document review. Using electronic document review applications can reduce document reviewing time and facilitate comment resolution team by by the study team within the reviewing period. Some examples of review platforms that enable collaborative team review are Microsoft SharePoint, the Online Office Suite, Microsoft Teams, and Please Review. So some of the key considerations for choosing a review platform would include the extent of the review. So for example, the documents with a large number of reviewers or multiple documents that need to be reviewed at the same time could especially benefit from choosing a platform that enables collaborative review. The functionality of a chosen review platform is also important to consider. So for example, while many reports may benefit from simultaneous document review, there may be situations where one reviewer at a time may be best. So in these cases, a check-in and check-out function might be useful. And finally, many programs such as the Online Office Suite and Please Review contain an @mentions feature. This feature enables a individual reviewer to notify another reviewer that their input is requested at a specific point in the document. The use of this feature can facilitate comment resolution during the review process while ultimately reducing the number of comments that need to be handled by the medical writer. So some special considerations for CSR preparation. One of them is for studies with co-development partners or where there was more than one sponsor for the study. Overall, early and thorough planning on the part of the medical writer and the study team is key to ensuring that the writing process is as efficient as possible. The key considerations include the document review process, where a review platform that all reviewers have access to should be selected. And a comment adjudication strategy should also be established beforehand. This could include instructions for reviewers to provide their comments by functional line and also to develop a strategy to resolve conflicting comments between sponsors. And finally, careful consideration of the best way to capture study design may also be required if the sponsors conducted their study activities independently. And finally, for special considerations, there are some special considerations for scenarios in which more than one writer or study team member may need to work in a document at the same time. This can happen under situations such as tight regulatory deadlines. The key recommendations include to avoid having multiple writers editing the same section of text at the same time. It may be prudent to assign a lead from each functional line to input comments. Since collaborative authoring platforms refresh changes from all reviewers upon saving, it is recommended that all users working simultaneously save their work frequently. In addition, it's a good idea for all writers to turn on the track changes feature so that any changes can be traced back to the individual author. As a note, if using Microsoft Word, it's important that all authors use either the online Word platform or the desktop application. If one person uses the online version while another one uses the desktop app, this can produce formatting errors within the document. And finally, collaborative authoring should rely on the reviewer best practices touched on earlier, such as making sure that comments are actionable and that they're directed at the correct person using the @mentions feature. So now that we've discussed some of the ways that writers can leverage both high-tech tools and lower-tech methods to streamline the authorship process, we wanted to talk about another key aspect of producing high-quality CSRs, and that is cross-functional collaboration. We will discuss some of the cross-functional strategies employed at MMS to maximize the efficiency and quality of CSR preparation, as well as downstream documents. So because CSRs encompass information from a wide variety of sources, collaboration of the medical writer with other functional lines is of critical importance. Some of the major points where this collaboration is key is through interactions with programming and biostatistics for the creations of tables, listings, and figures. And there's also potential for the interaction of authors and study team members with data science analysis tools to quickly identify points of interest within clinical trial data. Good communication with the document publishing team can ensure that the CSR fits publishing requirements once completed. And CSR authors need to work closely with the authors of safety narratives to ensure that safety information is adequately captured. In addition, there are steps that can be taken to ensure that CSRs are written with downstream usage in mind. So this may involve working with regulatory submissions teams, as well as with transparency teams creating documents for public disclosure. So early involvement of the medical writer with output development can help ensure that the outputs for a CSR meet the data presentation needs of the report. So this includes mock table shell development and early review of blinded data tables. For immutable tables that are generated by programming, it's also important to ensure that the table specifications match the needs of the report before the final tables are produced. This means obtaining early team agreement on the structure of the tables, which would involve stats and programming, medical writing, clinical safety, and regulatory. In addition, the formatting style, content, and presentation of these tables should be checked against the study objectives as early as possible. And all of these steps should be taken to avoid rework and timeline delays. And finally, the medical writer should also work with the statisticians on a study to ensure that there's a clear, accurate description of the analyses and of the results in the CSR. So as we mentioned earlier, collaboration with data scientists could enable the rapid identification of events of interest, such as safety signals within a study data set. The interaction of medical writers with the data scientists enables the identification of data quality issues and enables the investigation of data quality issues alongside the blinded data review process. And this could potentially avoid costly timeline delays. It could also aid in data investigations and post hoc analyses after the study blind has been broken. And those were earlier demonstrated by Jessica. And there are many more interesting applications for this technology. So if you're interested in hearing more about Datacise and these exciting data sciences technologies, we will be hosting a webinar on data sciences on Wednesday, October 14th. So interactions between the medical writer and publishing are also important to ensuring that the CSR and its appendices are produced in an efficient way. Medical writers really serve as a liaison between the study team and the publishing team, and as such, they need to be familiar with the content and the numbering of the appendices. It's best practice to acquire and format appendices early in the CSR creation process, and this also helps ensure that the appendices fit the needs of the CSR. So by working with the publishing team throughout the CSR authoring process, one can help ensure that the requirements for publication of the CSR and the appendices are met. And in addition, writers should work with the safety narratives writer to understand safety signals and make sure that that key safety information is adequately captured in the CSR. So in addition, cross-functional collaboration can be used to ensure that the CSR is written to maximize the ease of use in downstream applications, notably in health authority submissions and in public disclosure activities. And to discuss this, I'm going to hand the mic back over to Jessica.
Thanks, Michelle. CSRs should be written as fit-for-purpose documents that facilitate the creation of clinical submission documents, such as Module 2 documents for an NDA. This is especially important when writing pivotal CSRs for an upcoming submission. Key considerations include what data trends and conclusions have been reported before in the same drug program. It is also critical for the medical writer to work closely with the submissions team to ensure that the CSR is produced in time for the preparation of clinical submission documents and to ensure that key messaging is consistent across these documents. Early interaction with the submission team can help ensure that the CSR captures the analyses and messaging needed for a successful submission. With health authorities requiring greater public disclosure of clinical trial documents, including CSRs, these documents should be written as disclosure ready as far as is practical. Most of the sections of CSRs are subject to public disclosure, which requires redaction of sensitive patient information. To minimize the amount of time and effort that must be spent on redaction, the amount of information in the CSR that could be used to identify a trial participant or investigator should be minimized. This includes, for example, reducing or eliminating reference to patient IDs in the CSR body, removal of mini narratives from the CSR body, while retaining the full narratives in Section 14. Removing any investigator, study site, or CRO information from the CSR body and retaining this information only in the appendices of the CSR. Overall, working with the transparency team during CSR authorship is key to ensuring that CSR are as near to disclosure ready as possible at CSR finalization. As mentioned earlier, medical writer management of CSR processes can yield both an increased quality and efficiency in CSR preparation. Medical writers interact with many functional lines such as stats and programming and biometrics, pharmacovigilance writers and safety, as well as regulatory operations and transparency teams. In addition, medical writers are heavily involved with clinical teams during the writing of the CSR. Because of this, medical writers are in a key position to drive essential conversations and processes during CSR preparation and developing cross-functional strategies that are key to streamlining CSR processes and increasing overall document quality. In conclusion, there are some exciting technology developments in the pharmaceutical industry that hold the potential to increase authoring efficiency and document quality. This applies to both CSRs as well as other downstream documentation that is eventually submitted for drug marketing approval. It's important to note that these technologies will never replace the human touch offered by a medical writer, but could substantially reduce repetitive tasks through automation. Leveraging these CSR efficiencies requires careful assessment of advantages and key considerations as they relate to specific studies. It's critical to have a customized plan tailored to each study or development program in order to maximize document quality and preparation efficiency. Cross-functional collaboration is key to strategies to maximize authoring efficiency for CSRs and downstream activities. You want to make sure that we're utilizing collaboration across functional lines to produce those high-quality CSRs. We also want to make sure that we're collaborating with other teams, such as the submission team or transparency team, to increase efficiencies in downstream documents. Quality is never an accident, and it's always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution, and it represents the wise choice of many alternatives. At this point, we'd like to open up the discussion to answer any audience questions.
Thank you, Jessica and Michelle, for your insights. As you mentioned, now we'd like to move on to the Q&A portion of this webinar. We have 3 questions so far. Jessica, the first question is for you. In the case of studies with multiple sponsors, what is the best way to handle collaborative document review if all reviewers can't access the same review platform?
Great question, Don. So in my experience, it may make sense to conduct the review in the platform that key reviewers or functional lines can access, for example, clinical. Ideally, you want the bulk of the reviewer comments to be seen by key members of the team. Another potential option is if you have a primary and secondary co-development partners is to stagger document review so that the primary partner is the only reviewer for early drafts, and then both the primary and secondary development partner review the later drafts when the document is closer to being final.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Michelle, second question's for you. Can you give an example of how you maintain a flexible CSR template?
Absolutely. So MMS recently updated the guidance within our standard CSR template to include instructions on how to report on studies that experience disruptions due to the SARS-CoV-2 global pandemic. The FDA and EMA issued guidance documents back in April on how to capture changes in study conduct, such as remote monitoring of study sites, increased protocol deviations, and more patient discontinuations than expected due to site closures. So our approach was to provide instructions and suggestions in the potentially affected sections of the CSR. For example, in the protocol deviation sections, we provided some instructions on how to adequately capture protocol deviations that were directly due to site disruptions. And we also provided links to the relevant health authority guidances for more specific information. So this way, a writer has all of the information they need in front of them to steer study team conversations about SARS-CoV-2 related disruptions. And they can also, this also ensures that the information is adequately captured in the CSR.
Okay, great. And then I do have one final question, unless there's any other questions that come through. Do you recommend a results review meeting at the time of top-line delivery to lock in key messages for the medical writer? Michelle or Jessica, either of you can take this.
Yeah, this is Jessica. I would definitely recommend a results review meeting once you have those final tables well in advance of the next draft, whether that means the top line tables or just the final tables, so that the team and the medical writer can really get on the same page and work on developing those key messages as early as possible in the drafting process.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. If anyone has additional questions on what you heard today, please follow up with your point of contact with MMS directly or email media@mmsholdings.com and we'll direct you to one of the presenters. For additional free webinars, visit mmsholdings.com/webinars or follow us on LinkedIn for updates. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy your day.